Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Tonight we're going to talk about current events because there is a lot going on in the state of criminal law, in the state of our political system, and our justice system. So tonight I have one of my favorite law professors, Professor Kenneth Williams. He was at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. He was my teacher in 1989, but now he is a tenured professor with Houston College of Law, formerly known as South Texas College of Law. And Kenneth Williams has had a very illustrious career. He's even gotten a United States, a death penalty case reversed by the United States Supreme Court. And he is an authority on criminal law and legal subjects. I'm excited to have him join us tonight, along with my regular co-host, my esteemed friend, Mr. Danny Sneed. So we will be talking tonight about current events. So I want to start with our guest, Professor Kenneth Williams, and we're going to talk about, Kenneth Williams is going to give us the facts, and we'll talk about our opinions about the Charlotte case, the murder of Mr. Keith Scott. And we're welcome to take your call-ins. Please call us at 713-807-1794. And without any further ado, Professor Williams, thank you for joining the show tonight.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for volunteering your time to tell us about the Keith Scott case. So tell me what the media has reported on the Charlotte case.
Sure. Mr. Scott is an African-American male. He was sitting in his car in a parking lot in Charlotte, North Carolina. The police show up at the park. They say to do a sting totally unrelated to Mr. Scott. And when they looked over to his car, they noticed him with marijuana. And they said that they decided, no big deal, they weren't going to do anything about it, even though it's illegal in North Carolina. And then the police say they later noticed a gun in Mr. Scott's possession. And that's when they say they approached him. And they said that they instructed him to drop the gun, get out of the car. According to the police, he got out of the car, but he was still armed after refusing to drop the gun. And they shot him and killed him. And they're claiming that they were justified because they believed that he posed a threat, imminent threat to the officers. After controversy, the video was released by the police, but they only released parts of the video.
Of course.
And the video does not clearly show Mr. Scott with a gun in his hand. Now, it's inconclusive. You can't say he didn't have a gun. You can't say he did have a gun from the video. His wife also was at the scene. She made a video, cell phone video. Hers is harder to follow because, you know, she's moving around.
Now, is she in the parking lot car with him?
She's in the parking lot. She is also there. She comes upon the scene. I don't know how she ended up there, to be honest with you, but she comes up. So he's in the parking lot. She's a ways from the parking lot. She gets there when the police are surrounding him. They have their guns drawn. And she is telling the police, he's not going to do anything to you. He doesn't have a gun. He has TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. She yells that out to the police, TBI. And so in her presence, he gets out of the car. And she's telling her husband to get out of the car. Keith, get out of the car, get out of the car. She's telling the police also, he's not going to hurt you. You don't have to worry about it. He's not going to hurt you. So he gets out of the car and they shoot him. And they end up killing him. So that's the controversy. Neither her video's inconclusive on whether he had a gun. She's maintaining he did not. And the police video also is inconclusive, doesn't show one way or the other whether or not there was a gun in his hand. And the failure to release the video caused protests and riots in Charlotte, and they finally did, after a lot of pressure, release the video. Like I said, it was inconclusive, but only released part of it. They didn't release the entire video.
Of course not.
And their claim is that, well, we can't release the video because it would compromise the investigation. But the problem a lot of people are having is, well, why would you release part of the video and not all of it? It seems to me if you believe that the video shouldn't be released because it would compromise, well, you don't release any of it. Yeah, and if you're going to release the video, part of it, you should release all of it.
And if you release part of it, now you're tampering with it, and have you erased the rest of it? Because to release part of it, that means you either had to start it and stop it, or make another video that only has portions of it.
Right.
So now, do we have a complete video?
And there are fears in the community. You know, it feeds into the conspiracy theories, and it feeds into
lack of transparency.
It feeds into all that. That basically the police are trying to cover up the crime. Now, I must say the police chief is an African American. He came out and had a press conference, said he didn't want to try the case in the public, but then he went ahead and tried the case in public. He was basically putting forth a defense for the officers. He says that he maintains that the gun that was Mr. Scott has Mr. Scott's DNA on it and his fingerprints on the gun.
Where was the gun found? Is anyone saying?
They have not been clear, but they have not been clear about that. Well, I guess they're maintaining that he had the gun, so he would have been found on his body.
Now, let me tell you what's strange to me about this, and Danny, I want you to weigh in. Now, just based on what you've heard, I've been in a very litigious federal trial, so I haven't watched the news, and in the morning when I hear about it on the radio, it's too much bad news for me to watch, so I haven't seen it. But what bothers me about what you said is, if I'm sitting in my car, how would they know if I have a gun?
They say they were able to see the gun from where they're
So he held it up? I mean, are they standing over him in the car?
Well,
I mean,
they said they just noticed a gun that I guess, that he was handling the gun.
So he's handling marijuana and a gun?
And a gun, according to, they said first he said
up high enough for them to see from far away.
That's what they claim. So again, if the whole video had been released, then there was a dash cam video, and there was also a body cam
So
video.
everything that's in the police officer's view should be recorded.
Should have been recorded, and that would answer a lot of, you're asking me questions I'm not completely clear about, because they haven't been clear about it.
Right.
But I guess they're claiming that they saw a gun. Somehow they saw a gun. They saw the marijuana first. They said, we're not going to bother with this. We're here for another reason, stakeout. And then they only decided to approach him once they saw the gun. Now, again, they would have a video cam, and if all that had been released, we'd have more answers.
I just know that when I'm next to someone in a car or even standing around, I just don't know if they're smoking weed or what they're doing, or if they have it in their hand.
Right.
Most people's hands are not visible in a car. They're usually, covered up by the door, and so you usually don't see them, and you certainly don't see what's in their hands, especially if they're down on the steering wheel or down doing whatever they're doing. So I just find that to be interesting. Danny, what's your take on that?
Well, I believe that police officers understand that they have to write a report. So what I believe they do is they have us this rapport with each other, how to create the narrative. And as they getting ready to arrest someone, they communicate through these assertions, these false assertions, to create the narrative. And it's like we practice this, and I give you these cues. Stop resisting. So when I'm hollering stop resisting and you're not resisting, that covers me when I'm constantly beating you. So when I say drop the gun, and I keep saying it repeatedly, it set the narrative, because I know I'm on camera, to justifiably
the shooting. Yeah.
So I see the staging going on, and it's not something I'm just creating a conspiracy. If you ever had the opportunity to really talk to a transparent, honest police officer, they will honestly tell you, we understand that to get a conviction, to make sure it's a good arrest, it has to meet all the criteria. So when we're arresting people, if it doesn't fit it, we have to make sure it does. So the gun has to be in a certain position for us to justify. It has to be in your hand, can't be in your pocket. And if we have to take it out of your pocket and place it next to you, that's not above us to do that. Now, would I admit that I did that? No, but I got a job to protect. You're out here doing wrong. And it's morally wrong, but police officers don't connect to what they're doing morally when they go to work. They're going to work to do a job, and they want to go home, and they're desensitized to life and death. And this is all my personal opinion, but it is based on having conversations with police officers. You know, you have police officer friends.
Absolutely.
I have police officer friends. Now, that I wouldn't call their names out, and of course they wouldn't go on record saying this, but it looks to me that once he went down, that they were collaborating with each other exactly what we know we need to do to stage this to where we're covered. Now, when they showed the gun and they showed the holster, I'm already seeing how and his family asserted he had a book.
He had what?
A book.
A book. They're claiming he had a book in his hand as opposed to a gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once he was shot, and they were over him, and they were shaking down his body, and they were shielding the view of the cameras. If they discovered that after he was down, the gun was not in his hand, they know they got to pull it out of the holster. They got to put it in his hands to get blood evidence on it, and then they got to push it to the. So you have to stage the scene. Now remember, this is all not from me watching a lot of television, but understanding police officers are now, if they make a mistake, they're not going to leave it a mistake because they know all of them are going to be accountable, and they cover each other. He kept saying, "Drop the gun, drop the gun." I said, "Man, you, it's like a setup.
Right.
You staging and justifying killing him."
5 times in the video, they're heard saying, "Drop the gun, drop the gun."
It's actually 9 recorded times.
But you
Oh,
don't.
is it
But you
9?
never see a gun. Let me ask you this: Is
No, it is. I must say it is inconclusive. I mean, you can't say he didn't have a gun. It's just not clear from the video.
Right.
Yeah.
But they should
But
be
let
able
me
to
ask you
say.
this. But let me ask you this: I forgot. Is Charlotte an open carry?
It is an
Yes.
open carry state.
So
Yeah,
what's
it
wrong
is.
with him having a
Yeah,
gun?
Right.
It's an open
Right.
carry state.
That's a good point.
If it's an open carry state, then how can you tell someone? How do you already know that they don't have a right to have a gun?
What they're having a hard time doing
Let's answer that question.
Huh?
How would an officer, if it's an open carry state, how are you justified in someone sitting in their car with you shooting them?
Well, I say I fear for my life and the life of my officers.
But you don't get to fear for your life if your state legislature has said you can carry a gun.
Well, what they're saying is that
Open
they told
carry.
him to. Their defense is that we told him numerous times to drop the gun.
But But what is the probable cause? He has a right to have the gun.
Right, but I believe they can approach, even in an open carry state, I think they can ask for the permit. They can approach the person and ask for the permit.
I
they see
still
a
have to
gun.
know that they see the gun.
Right,
I-
right.
That's what I have a
That's the
problem
big
with. Because I know if I'm
question.
sitting in my car
Yeah,
and I have a gun, I'm not going to have it up for the world to see it. So I'm not going to have it. And open carry in Texas is, you still have to have it concealed.
Right, that's
And
right.
so you still have to
And
have it in
by
your
the way,
vehicle.
well, it was not it was not, now I can explain this. The gun was not registered to him.
But they didn't know that.
They would not have known.
So what
that.
I'm just trying to say is,
right.
what are police taught when these laws are changed to allow
Right,
open carry? So
right.
now Texas has open carry. Do police officers have the same rights to tell you to put a gun down in open carry? I mean, I can see it if
in an
they're
open
coming.
carry, they can ask for the
permit.
for your permit.
But they still have to
that's
have
it.
probable
Yeah.
cause. Don't they have to have the probable cause to stop you?
Or at least a reasonable suspicion.
A reasonable
well, although I
suspicion.
don't know how, I'm not sure how.
See,
it
I'm
would
just trying to
work,
see
be
how are
honest
they
with you.
going to
Yeah.
justify the encounter.
If they-
I guess that's what I'm
right,
trying to
that's
deal
right.
with. Because if he was in a park,
Well, I mean, you could always, the police can volunteer, I mean, they can approach someone.
I agree.
Right, they can approach you and ask you a question.
I agree. But that's not, they didn't ask him any questions because his wife
Right.
is talking before they get to
Right,
him. According
right.
to what you say, she's telling them to leave
Well,
him
what they're
alone.
saying, okay, what the police chief said is that they said the probable cause was the marijuana. They said they have a right, but based on the marijuana.
Yeah.
That's what they're arguing.
Like I said, I just have a hard time thinking someone has marijuana in one hand and a gun in another. Anywhere. I mean, even if the police aren't there, most drug dealers that
And why
I
is he
know,
pulling a gun out with a bunch of police around? And
you don't do that. And if you're smoking weed, you're smoking weed. You're not smoking weed and holding a gun. I mean, that's just not a normal thing to do. If you see the weed, they're smoking it.
Well, and with 5 police officers,
I'm just saying, in a car, if you see weed, he's got to be holding it up. I mean, you got to be smoking it. Otherwise, you wouldn't know I have weed in my car.
And I guess I should add also the officer who shot him is also African American.
Yes, I think I've heard that.
Right.
But for his wife to approach and say that he's not armed and don't shoot him, he has a brain injury, TBI. To me, that's some running interference that he's not dangerous.
Well,
at least give her the benefit of the doubt.
They're going to argue, though, I'm pretty sure they would argue that being told he's got TBI actually made them more fearful. I can see the defense lawyer making a big deal about that.
I guess my issue is...
Someone as good as you would make a big deal about that.
Well, no, my issue, though, would be this. Why even deal with him? You're not there for him.
Right.
So why are you? I mean, why is there a necessity to deal with him?
in agreement with you.
That's what I'm just trying to say.
You're there for another purpose. Why are you?
Do what you're supposed to be doing.
That's
if he's not bothering you, he's not interfering with your investigation. Why are you approaching him in the first place? Even though I know officers can, but if you're that fearful, why would you approach someone that's not your target?
Why do you even have to deal with him at all?
That's what I'm saying.
You're here for a different purpose.
You're there for a different purpose. You don't need to be fearful of this man because you don't need to deal with this man.
Right. That's right.
And so,
why have this encounter to begin with?
Why have this encounter to begin with if you have a target on the other side of the park or something going on? Now, if you're trying to ask him to leave or something, but I'm not hearing that that's what they did, because you can do that any kind of way. I don't know. I just have a problem with so much shooting. I'm glad about videos. I'm glad people are filming things. I'm glad the Supreme Court says we have a right to film, because there was a time in which the police would take your cameras from you if you'd filmed it and charge you with interfering with
the police
officers' duties, investigations. So anyway, that's interesting. So Danny, although you told me how the police officers feel, how do you feel that it happened? What do you think about the encounter in the first place? Do you think that he had a right to be left alone? What about that right?
Well, the thing about it is, and I may just argue with my colleague before I got here, it's a real easy fix to what's going on with unarmed black men being killed. It is not changing the race of the person that's in the uniform. It's the policies allow police officers with no fear of consequences to act out using deadly force with no repercussions, and they know they're protected. And it's a culture that has infected the way we police in America. And at one time, they justified by so many weapons, automatic weapons on the streets, that the police were underarmed. So they would figure that the people on the street had better weapons than they did. That was their justification, that more and more people were being found with guns. They created this fear that we need to act first and not think that they may or not have a weapon.
I appreciate that comment, but I'm asking you about from the community standpoint and the family standpoint, because I got your opinion about the police officer staging. I have your opinion about what police are thinking. I'm asking you, how do you feel about, as a man, how do you feel the way this man was treated?
Well, outraged. Outraged because too many instances where you see a different race, you see a different results. I watched a video last night where an individual was fighting with two officers in the kitchen. Two officers had a physical fight with this guy, and they never considered pulling out their weapons. They fought for...
So that you're saying that the defendant was not black?
No, he wasn't.
He was a white man.
Right. So.
And how did you happen to see this? Was it on the news, or was it on a...
It's just trolling on, you know, now there's so many shootings, people try to make the contrast with...
Where'd you see it, Danny? On
Facebook.
Okay, that's what I want.
A reliable source.
Okay.
But it was actual account of an encounter with police officers with an unarmed man that was physically fighting. So they're throwing blows. A female officer and a male officer are both fighting this guy, and he's in a straight-up fist fight. But they never thought about pulling their weapons. They didn't pull out a baton. They just fought him until he ran out of, and then they handcuffed him. Or if you look at the suspect in the bombings, this guy has killed people, set bombs.
You have to tell the whole story if you're going to talk about the bombings. You have to.
Well, the recent bombings in New York City.
Okay. Give us a little background, please.
Well,
a lot of my viewers don't know the whole story, so if we got to tell them the whole story as you know it. It doesn't have to be accurate. It's just the story as you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So recently there was a bombing in New York City, and it was the guy that had did it. They put out an alert. They knew who he was. So an officer comes up on him, and he's laying down, and somebody reported seeing him. He was in a store owner's storefront, just sitting there, and he was incoherent, maybe sleeping. So he called the police. They show up, and they get in a gunfight with this guy.
Now, this guy, let me make sure I understand. So there has been police shootings. There has been a bombing in New York. They suspect this terrorist. From what I have heard on the radio, it is in a trash dumpster. A bomb has gone off. People are injured, but no one's killed.
Right.
But because it's New York, they've had the big bombing, 9/11. Everybody is on high alert.
It's a massive manhunt.
Massive manhunt. And so some store owner has seen a homeless guy that has been described as someone that was in the vicinity.
Fits the description.
Fit the description of someone that was by this dumpster when this pressure cooker went off and was turned into a bomb.
Well,
is that correct?
It's the photograph that's been posted everywhere.
But the facts, am I correct on the facts that it's a
Right.
pressure cooker inside a
Right.
dumpster? Okay.
So he noticed the guy looks like the guy that's been on CNN, posted all over the news media, that it's a massive manhunt. When they show up, he immediately reacts in a confrontational way.
So let me make sure I know. So if you can help me with this follow, since we have two men, a man called, so this call, one the suspect and one the store owner.
Right.
So tell the story like that.
So when they arrive,
The police. Okay.
they don't approach with the intent, this guy has set off bombs, he's a terrorist, we're gonna take him out.
We feel threatened.
We feel threatened.
So the police are not feeling threatened when they approach this homeless man, and it's because he's not African American? Is that one of the implications?
That's too far of a stretch. I'm just saying that
Well, what does he look like? Because I don't know.
He ended up being, I think,
White?
Hispanic.
Oh, the guy in New York?
Right.
I don't know. I think he's Muslim, isn't he? I believe he's Arab.
So you think he's an Arab person?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, he ends up
He's
just
not
having,
black.
He ended up with a
He's not black. No, he's not African American.
but he has a soda wound.
How'd he get that?
The
So the police do shoot him?
right.
But they don't shoot to kill, is what you're saying.
I mean, they didn't continue to shoot.
Is it videoed? Is his encounter videoed?
No, it's not live, but to the aftermath when he's on the stretcher being taken away. And I argue when they got Dylan, the guy that killed the people in the church. It's been reported that you saw how when they put him in the car, how gentle they took him out.
Took him to Burger King.
They took him to get something to eat before they took him to jail. Took him to Burger King.
Now, what I always get concerned about is someone tuning in, so I want to make sure that we try to say the names, or like the store owner, or Dylan.
Right, I kind of switched gears.
But you did, but you're still seeing a bunch of he's, and so I just want to make sure that you work with me on that. Work with me on.
That's what
it's
really
okay.
outrages
It's okay
me.
to switch it. It's okay to switch it. But I just want to know. So you're making a contrast. Make sure I understand. You're making a contrast, Danny, that when Dylan, who's the alleged shooter in the church in
South Carolina,
when the police arrived to arrest him, he was treated gently. Even though
And took him to Burger King.
Even though the report was that he was
Killed
armed
like 8
and
people.
dangerous and murdered nine
murdered
people,
9 people.
he was gently taken to be fed. Even though he looks like he doesn't eat because he's emaciated looking to me. But they take him to eat. But you know, according to my police friends, people are fed in hopes of being treated humanely, in hopes that the suspect will confess.
Really?
Yes, now I know that's not the way many African Americans are treated, but it's a police tactic to feed and to make someone feel very good about what they just did, in hopes that when you get them to the police station, there will be a confession.
But they owe me a lot of Big Macs. And Whoppers. Man, they owe me a lot. I mean,
How many did
belt
they?
busters. I mean, many times that I've been in the
arrested?
back of that car, I
They
have
weren't
never.
nice to you?
No, we didn't go
Never?
through Taco Bell. We didn't go to Whataburger. We passed by them, but they never stopped.
You never got your ass beat, did you?
Yes.
You never got shot, did you?
No.
But you got your
Thank
ass
God.
whooped. But you got your ass whooped?
Yeah. Well, I got pushed into the window, and once my head hit that window and I set back upright,
You minded, didn't you?
I was real quiet the rest of the ride.
You knew what could come next, right? Well, I'm glad you're still here, and I'm glad you minded, because you could have gotten shot in the back of that patrol car.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you didn't get shot. All right. So, one of the punishments I think the police officers who always feel threatened when they shoot African American men would be is no more being a policeman. How about that? What offends me is no matter how it turns out in the end, I believe if you shot an unarmed man, then especially in 3 minutes of your encounter, you haven't tried to communicate with them, you haven't tried to use less coercive mannerisms. I just think that your judgment is bad. And I just think you should be fired, just for poor judgment, period. I mean, I really do. I mean, a lot of us make poor judgments in our jobs, whether it's Burger King or being the COO or being the president of a university. And when you make poor judgments that affect the reputation of whatever company you work for or university, you get fired. And so I have a problem with the fact that the Blue Shield shields them to work another day on our streets when they obviously don't have good judgment.
Well, you have a couple of obstacles to firing them. One would be the contract, the union contract with the city or the county or whoever. The other problem would be the Constitution. They do have due process rights, so you have.
No, and I mean afterwards, but I just think the administrative process should begin.
Well,
because in all contracted jobs, you have to have professionalism, that's always required, and good judgment is always required. That's very important for police officers. And although there's a lot of training at the beginning and mental competency, one of the things our former police chief Bradford has said, and former city councilman, is there should be reoccurring mental evaluations of police officers,
totally agree.
because they change.
Sure.
And so I'm just
become more
saying in
hardened.
terms where it falls in terms of judgment, which might be mental stability, because sometimes these officers, when you find out, they might be going through a divorce, some other things might be going on in their lives, and I just don't think that, I think that ultimately as a taxpayer, not a lawyer, just as a taxpayer, I think that they're showing Tamir Rice, I mean, that's bad judgment. If a child is playing with a gun and they get shot within moments of you arriving, and you're not trying to do any...
So let me ask you, how do you fire them though if, like in Tamir Rice's case, they're not even charged with a crime? So how do you...
Well, I'm just saying administratively, I believe that should be the objective on bad judgment. I've looked at some of those contracts for the police unions and for the police officers and firemen, and they have conduct in their contracts. So it is, I mean, to me, that's the worst conduct if you are violating, if you haven't used the least intrusive way, least permanent way of dealing with the situation. I just believe there should be some surveillance. I think there should be some policing, which you think, even with Tamir Rice, he looked like a kid, and kids play with guns. So unless we're going to outlaw guns, you have to have some type of policy and judgment. You have to have.
This officer also had a history. Also,
Right.
He had a discipline history. Yeah, it's just very, very difficult to terminate.
Well, no. I'm just saying, at least attempt to put it in their personnel file. I've been a hearing examiner for the city of Houston, and I've seen officers up for termination for failing to write a police report on a $1 theft. Okay, so I'm just saying, when you're on the inside and police officers use their own internal policies to do things that are to usually minority officers are being dealt with in that way, then they have to take it to a hearing examiner, which is after like the third stage. I did that for 2 years. So I'm telling you, officers go after officers for the things that they justify out in the public. And so when you're on the inside, those policies are there for little minuscule things. I've had one officer go after another African-American female for what she was working an extra job, saying that she stole something from a store. She wrote a check. I mean, just all kind of craziness. They go after each other, and they fire each other behind. So maybe I have a little bit more information than a lot of people, but I'm just saying, if someone is murdered, or killed, or lose their life, I still think that's something that we need to at least have hearings about, or go after them for poor judgment, because we can't afford for another round of poor judgments. And let me tell you another thing the police officers do. They get to, when they shoot somebody in Houston, they get to take 2 days off and lawyer up to come in before they talk.
Before they talk.
But citizens don't get that.
Right.
So an officer's
That's
not
a
letting
big
you
problem.
go lawyer up for 2 days.
And collaborate your story.
And they get to see how the evidence unfolds, and
They don't
before
even,
they have to give
they
a
go home
statement.
immediately. They don't have to make a
Right.
statement right then when it happens, when they're under the
And we're
excitement
taught,
of what happened.
Right, we're taught, and you were taught, and we're all taught in law school, that's the best time to take a statement.
Exactly,
Excited
right.
utterance. We have an exception.
We have an exception to the law.
Right.
And so, as a police policy, you've just murdered someone, but you get to go take a break.
And you
Who
get
else
to go
gets
take
that?
a break, and you get to go and see how the evidence unfolds.
And then
you
2
can
days
tailor
later,
your
you can come with your
statement to,
union lawyer to
right.
make your statement.
And you've already seen the evidence. You've seen,
And you've collaborated with all the other men and
the
women that were
officers,
out
and you've
there.
seen the police
with
report
you.
and all
You've
that.
seen the police
Yeah,
report and
right.
all the other officers. Is that fair?
Right, exactly.
So I'm just saying, can we even the playing field
right.
there?
That would have to be negotiated in the
Collective bargaining. But I'm just saying,
bargaining,
people need to
yeah.
be aware of the fact that officers do not have to make a statement. They get to go home for 2 days before they even have to make a statement.
And your viewers should know that if they have a encounter with the police that they thought was unprofessional or illegal, they need to report it.
They do
so
need
that
to
at least there's a record
Right.
of these officers' behavior. So
Exactly.
don't just overlook it. Even if it's not sustained, you
Right.
go and you file a complaint against the officer.
Right,
At
I
least there's a
agree.
record. So at least if there's a pattern now, it would make it easier maybe to terminate that
to
officer.
terminate them because they have
Right.
something in their file and they fight that vehemently. And like, I hate that we have allowed police officers, the bad apples, to ruin the whole bunch because we have to talk like in general instead of specifics. You know, it bothers me because like Danny said, I have a lot of police officer friends and I like police, I support the police, but somehow the only thing that I've seen in my 24 years in being a lawyer is you have to have community policing. A lot of these encounters with people, if the police were from the community, worked the community and actually got out and talked to people at the store, like Eric Garden who's selling cigarettes, everybody in the community knows he sells cigarettes there.
Right.
So why don't those officers know that?
Right.
The man in Baton Rouge that got killed, everybody knew he sold stuff in front of the store.
Right.
If they would have just gone in, they didn't see a weapon and just talked to the store owner, he would have said, oh, that dude comes by every day at 5 o'clock or twice a week at 5 o'clock, you know, peddling things.
Right.
I mean, why isn't there any policemen, like in Third Ward where I live, the police officers in the morning hang around Exxon on the Run at Sophomore and 288. I know them, I have their cell phone numbers. We know who all the hustlers are. And those officers know who the hustlers are.
Okay.
The ones that come, they know who they are, and they know us. But they've cared to do that. There are other officers that drive around that I've never met. But there are a few that on their own come read the newspaper,
And they
you know,
said-
and they, if there's something going on, they let us report it to them. You know, they keep an eye on the neighborhood, like the old-fashioned way. There are other officers that don't. And so I'm for a concept of community policing. So at least you know who the real troublemakers are and the ones who really aren't.
Well, that would be a good idea, I think.
And you encourage more officers not to live out of county, to live in the city.
Well,
or in the
yeah,
county.
that certainly is very important.
So it's not a us against them.
Against them, right. Sure. You should have
philosophy.
some connection to the community that you're policing.
That you live in,
Yeah.
even if it's not the exact same community, because the officer that we know well over here that works 6 to 2 out of the South Central area police station, he lives on the north side. So he doesn't live on our side, but he cares to know the people in the community. He knows the people that are hanging on the corners. We talk about it. You know, we know who's gone to jail lately, who's back out.
Right.
Which one of the homeless guys will fight you?
Right.
You know, which ones don't. So we know who's crazy for real and who's just a dope fiend. So we know who those people are. And he knows who they are. And his name is Officer Jones. But we need more of that. Danny, what you over there doing? Let's talk. Get engaged. So you were going to talk. Who you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about Terrance Crutcher.
Okay. Who is Terrance Crutcher?
Terrance Crutcher. Terrance Crutcher was a 40-year-old African-American black man that on September 16, 2016, he was standing outside of his disabled vehicle when he encountered Officer Betty Shelby, and this happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. At the time that Officer Shelby encountered Mr. Crutcher, he was unarmed, and he was standing near his vehicle in the middle of the street. As we know of today, this officer has been charged with first-degree manslaughter, and this shooting was labeled a homicide. We talk about, in this year, 707 people have died by the hands of police. Out of that number, 164 of them have been black men. And the contrast, what happened in the Scott case, in the Crutcher case was...
We haven't heard Sky's name. Who's Scott?
Scott.
Scott. Okay, I thought you said Scott.
Keith Scott.
Okay.
They happened 4 days apart and 1,000 miles apart. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of happened right together, and it's just add more fuel to the fire of what was happening with the Scott case. But here, unlike we've seen before, they actually, the prosecutor actually looked at the evidence.
And a big difference also is that they immediately in Tulsa released the video of the shooting, even though they were still investigating. So you didn't have the same community uproar that you had in Charlotte. They immediately released the video so everybody could see it.
So have you seen it?
Oh, yeah.
What does it show?
It shows Mr. Scott with his hands up in the air, walking towards his car, and then he gets by his car, and the officer pulls out a gun and shoots him.
But why?
She's claiming that he was reaching in the car.
But you don't see that.
Well, to be honest, you can't see that part completely. You can't see that part of the video if he was actually. I mean, he was definitely walking with his hands up toward his car. When he gets to his car, he still has. You can see one hand up. In all honesty, you can't see the other hand.
So, but I'm just saying, but why would she need to shoot him though? I mean, because if you're going by your car, wouldn't you be using the other hand to open your car door?
He was reaching into the.
And
they said they told him to stop, and
why?
he kept walking.
But why are they telling him to stop?
You know.
Because, like you said, that's not a casual encounter when you start
Right.
commanding people to stop. That's no longer our definition.
He
of
had his hands up.
So, I mean, to me, when someone has their hands up, they're compliant.
She said he kept but she says he's not compliant because he kept walking.
But why does he need
toward
to
his car.
stop?
I'm not sure exactly why they stopped him to begin with. Like why they
Why they felt that they had the color of authority to tell someone
him
stop.
to stop and put his. He definitely had his hands up. I don't know why. I don't know what led to that. Yeah.
Well, what they were saying is he isn't following commands.
Right.
Did you get killed for not following commands?
And she said after she confronted him, he refused to show his hands and walked toward his vehicle despite being told to stop.
Right.
But they're saying that she overreacted. She got too emotionally involved in the situation. Is that like there's some type of justification that she got too emotionally involved? And to me, that's like, oh, okay, she's a trained police officer. What his emotion has to do with her training and her job?
Well, also another officer tased him. And there's a suggestion that maybe she thought the other officer was shooting instead of tasing. See, the other officer did tase him, and then she immediately shot him. Yeah.
So what's the justification for that?
Well, she's saying that
He didn't respond to the tasing?
Well, no, they thought he was reaching into the car. That's what her lawyer says.
But the windows were up.
Well, yeah, that's what her. The
I mean, how was he reaching into it? Like he'd already opened the door?
They already looked in the
They said
evidence.
they've told him to stop, and he kept going. And,
I got that part, but
yeah.
I'm trying to get the reaching part.
Well, they said they thought he was he was moving his hands into the car.
I heard that.
No,
But I'm still trying to see what you're seeing when the visual on it. If the windows are up, you can see if the windows are up.
Well, from the video we can't see that
But
for
they
sure.
can see more than a video could see because they're moving.
Right.
They're a fluid,
I guess they're going to
fluid
claim
being.
that the window was up. I guess they're going to claim that.
But I mean, you can't reach inside unless you open
The window
door.
was down. I guess they were probably going to claim that.
So at 7:36 p.m. on September 16th, police received a 911 call about an abandoned vehicle in the middle of the street. One caller said somebody left their car running in the middle of the street with the doors wide open. The doors are open. The vehicle is still running. It's an SUV. It's blocking traffic. There was a guy running around it saying it's going to blow up. But I think he's smoking something. I got out and was like, do you need help? He was like, come here, come here. I think it's going to blow up. The other caller said there's a car that looks like somebody just jumped out of it and left it in the center of the road. It's dead in the middle of the street. It's a Navigator. The driver side door is open like somebody jumped out. It's blocking traffic. Police stated that Crutcher kept reaching into his pocket, refused to show his hands, walked towards his vehicle despite being told to stop, and then angled towards and reached into his vehicle, which he didn't do, clearly, in the video. And by them verifying by the blood spatters on the window when he was shot, that only way you can see splatters is
Because the windows are up.
The windows are up. And
Ben Crump is the lawyer for the family, and he had a enlarged picture showing that the window was up. Yeah. Now, I don't know what the
And the other issue is, she reported that his hands weren't up, and apparently somebody had a video that his hands were up.
No, his hands were up.
This clearly shows.
But I think what you just
definitely-
read said is he won't put his hands up. Didn't you just read
Well,
that?
No, he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. They told him to stop, and he kept
This
walking.
guy's still walking. He
Right.
isn't following commands. It's
yeah.
time for a taser, I think. This is officers' conversation being heard over their radios. I'm kind of thinking that that's about to happen. That looks like a bad dude, too, maybe on
Right.
something. This is the guy in the
In
helicopter.
the helicopter above.
Filming this.
Saying that he looks like a bad dude when you
From the
really can't
helicopter.
see him.
From a
That's what they said.
helicopter,
That was one
yeah.
of the complaints.
Right. So
Right.
you're characterizing a person based on his looks.
From the top, because you can't really see what's going
From
on.
a helicopter
From a
view.
helicopter.
And the other person in the helicopter, ironically, was the husband of the woman who shot him. Now, that's not the one talking,
I
but
understand.
the other one in the helicopter was
understand.
So.
But I think what you read at one point said that he wouldn't put his hands up.
No.
Police
they're not
say that
saying
Crutcher
that.
kept
He
reaching into
wouldn't.
his pocket.
But what did you
Refused
say
to
before?
show his hands.
Yeah, refused to show his
Walking
hands, so that means
towards
that
his
his hands are
building
not up.
despite being told to being stopped. But see, they
But see, they're saying what
but
they
the video does show he did
I'm not
have
talking about
his,
the video. I'm
okay.
talking about what the officer has said.
But it
Because
refutes
see,
the
it
evidence.
refutes what the video shows. That's what I'm
Right,
trying to get.
that's
the
what
officer,
happened.
That's what I'm trying
Well,
to get to.
yeah.
Because see, you're saying his hands were up because you watched the video, but there's nowhere there that they're saying that he won't show his hands. And if your hands are up, you are showing your
Well,
hands.
I think they're saying once he got by the car, he wouldn't show
But
his
they're
hands.
not showing it. They don't say anything. He's not reading anything about hands at all.
Well, they
Being
created.
shown.
Remember I tell you they created a narrative.
You don't have to tell me. I just want the facts.
Right.
So no, I agree with you. They create the narrative, but I'm just saying I just want to be real clear that the video is showing hands when their comment never says he showed his hands, but then he put his hands in his pocket. That's all I'm trying to show the contrast.
Well, I think-
there's no mention that there's any compliance.
Okay.
Because raising your hands is compliance.
Right.
And so-
But he didn't stop though. That's the argument that he didn't comply.
But
that
you
he
don't
wouldn't
have to stop. Because
Well,
showing your hand says I'm not dangerous, but if I haven't broken the law, then you can't tell me to stop.
I don't know why they were telling him to stop. I don't know the answer.
No, I'm not trying to ask you that.
Remember,
I'm
all
just
they
saying- I'm
need is
just
a
trying to do it.
reasonable suspicion to stop him.
That his
So,
car's not working?
Well, a car in the middle of the.
But that's not.
street and,
But in Texas, you have to
know,
see a crime.
It's such a
committed
low.
In Texas, you have to see a crime committed in your view, or have to articulate why you think a crime is being committed. And I'm just saying, when someone has a car stopped in the middle of a highway, that's not a crime. That means that they're going to.
Well,
be doing
that
something.
is a reasonable suspicion, wouldn't it? I mean,
Of what?
if you.
Of a crime?
It could be a car stopped in the middle of a street. You would have
Most
reasonable.
criminals-
I ran out of gas.
Well,
you have a
Professor
duty
Williams,
to
you don't deal with
investigate
criminals
that.
like I do.
Okay.
The criminals don't want to draw attention to themselves. Okay, they want to hide from attention, so they're not going to let their car be stopped in the middle of a highway.
Well, you see, I'm trying to look at it from a, academic perspective.
Well, I'm just dealing with it
Okay.
from an everyday perspective.
Well,
and
remember,
criminals
these
like do
officers-
things, they do things like sneaky. They don't
Remember,
do
though, these officers almost never get convicted.
Right.
Okay, so they're going to have a defense. So
Right.
we can't just
Right.
poo-poo and say, oh, they're definitely guilty.
No, I'm not.
Right.
I haven't said that at all, and I won't
Okay.
say it. But I'm just
Yeah.
still trying to do the academic part of a reasonable suspicion.
I'm trying to look at both
believe
sides
a
of it.
crime has been committed.
From that
I think that if
standpoint.
I'm an officer and as a layperson or an officer, and I see a car stop and I've been called, the natural assumption is that the car is disabled. I mean, if someone stops in the middle of the street, and
The
they're not
car
in
is
it.
in the middle of the street. You certainly
highway.
would
I
want to
think
figure out why it stopped in the middle of the street.
And you
And you
usually
have
want to
somebody
talk to the person.
who,
You don't want to.
well, you want to talk to, but what if maybe that's the problem. Maybe they're trying to talk to him, but he clearly, which I don't really get, to be honest with you, he's walking away from them with his hands up. But
Saying,
why?
"Don't shoot me."
No, he didn't say that.
But I'm just saying,
Well,
but that's
he's
what
walking
that
away.
says. I'm
But
just saying that's a signal
why
to
walk
police.
away from the officers though?
But he
I had
says-
this conversation
I'm like,
with my
Vivian,
father.
this is-
But why do that? I mean, I think we ought to
I
be
understand
honest
that.
with these young black men. Why do that?
But that's an easy argument to sell. And to,
But I
see
still don't
that part.
understand that.
Let me
Why
tell you,
would you do
Professor
that?
Williams, let's stop for a moment.
Okay.
I'm just going to tell you this. Most officers
Okay.
want your ID. So
Right.
most people don't walk to officers until they go get their ID. I'm just letting you
Well,
know
why
that.
didn't he just say, I'm going to get my... But they
Because
tell him, don't
apparently they're
move.
not
They
talking
tell
to
you, put your hands up, don't leave. Put your hands up, don't leave.
And that's conventional wisdom. And
I mean, I'm
agree
not
with
saying think he wasn't. I don't think.
But I still
from
don't
what
think I'm
I
gonna get
saw-
shot.
I
Whatever
don't.
I
From
do,
what
I
I
think I'm
saw,
gonna
I
get
don't
shot.
think the shooting is justified. But I still don't understand. Why wouldn't you just
Right.
stop?
Right.
They tell you, put your hands up, don't move. Why would you move?
Because me and you
And he
wouldn't do
clearly
it.
walking towards.
But let me
his
tell you
car.
something stupid I did one time.
Oh, and they're claiming, by the way,
That
they
wasn't
found
stupid,
PCP
Vivian.
in the car.
Huh?
They're claiming.
Yeah, but they didn't know that about before.
But they didn't know that before.
Well, I'm just saying
Although
this-
she is claiming that he was
Acting different.
and then
but
she
that's still not a reason to.
She
think
also
about it.
claims that she supposedly is an expert in.
Narcotic detection.
Yeah,
all that's gonna come up. Yeah.
Right. They're going to use all that.
All
kind of
that's
stuff.
gonna come up.
Right.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you something stupid I did. I think I have good sense. I take Morgan to school. She's in high school, and I'm going to the cleaners after I take her to school. I'm on Holcomb in Bel Air, and I don't realize I'm in a school zone in the morning. So they stop me. It's just a few years ago, about 6 years ago. They stop me and say, and so I stop. I give the officer my ID. He goes to his car. This is like 8 in the morning. He goes to his car, and he said, I said, why are you doing this? I was going slow. I'm going slow in the school zone. I said, why are you stopping me? He said, you can't talk on a cell phone anymore. That law just passed September 1st. You can't talk on a cell phone in a school zone.
In a school. Oh, I
I'm
see.
like, he said, didn't you see the sign right there? I'm on Holcomb. It's a busy street, right? So he's taking a long time when he takes my ID. So I'm like, I didn't pay attention to that. I don't watch the news. So in my mind, this is something stupid I do. I jump out of my car because I want to see the sign. Because I been waiting a long time, so I jump out of my car.
And what did he say?
And he said, on the bullhorn, get back in the car. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to look. You told me, didn't you see the sign? So hell, I'm going to look at the sign. You've been back there for 15 minutes going through my ID. So hell, I'm looking at the sign.
You finna get Sandra Bland.
Right.
And what I'm doing is I'm trying to look at the sign, but I'm not going far. I just can't see it from where I'm sitting. So I'm just going to get out and try to look at the sign, you know, because it's a big, wide street. Holcomb's a big, wide. So I'm trying to just put myself in I'm not thinking nothing. It's just a reaction because I'm sitting there. He got my ID. I'm just sitting there. And so he comes back and he's so mean to me. I'm like, okay. I jump back in the car. And when he comes back, he's like, I said, sir, I'm a criminal defense lawyer, former prosecutor. I'm on my way to court right now. I'm not trying to harm you, but you were sarcastic with me and you said, did I know and hadn't I seen the sign? So I felt kind of stupid as a lawyer that I didn't know. He said, okay, ma'am. He went from hostile to say, okay, ma'am, you can go on and go.
Oh, you get a pass.
warning.
You get a
He gave
pass.
you
I
a
never
warning?
got a pass before, but he gave me
He gave
one
you a
because I guess he
warning?
realized how he startled me. I
Yeah,
started trying
I
to
see.
explain it to him. I wasn't saying it like to get a pass. I was saying it like
It was HPD or
he was Bel Air PD.
Bel Air
glad he didn't
PD?
shoot
Oh,
you.
really?
It was
Okay.
Bel Air PD.
Okay.
And he said, I said, sir, I'm not trying to be sarcastic with you. I just, you said to me, didn't I know? And as a lawyer, I thought I should know, so I was just trying to see the sign. You said, didn't you see the sign? Like being all nasty, so I just wanted to see the sign. And so he just said, okay.
Well, I'm glad I know that now. I didn't know that either. You can't drive in the school zone.
Talk on a cell phone. It
Yeah.
made me get rid of my car and get a car where, because now the technology is
You
goes
can
through the
speak,
thing. I
on
went and
the-
got a new car because of that. I mean, my car was old, but I went and got a different car, and it's 4.5 years old now. So I went and got a car with the
Bluetooth
the technology because at that time my daughter was in a lot of extracurricular activities, and if you can't talk on the phone in the school zone, that's how you know where your kids are now. All the mamas are on the phones trying to figure out where they at. Lamar High School is a big high school, so you got to try to figure out where they are, and that's the way everybody communicates now. And so I went and got a phone where I could just be talking hands-free, and then went and got another car. So anyway, I'm just saying cops can scare the hell out of you. I mean,
people,
because
yeah.
I didn't mean to be
Sure.
ugly, but he was being mean. Like, didn't you see? I'm like, I wanted to read what it said.
And I have the conversation with my daughter all the time because she, for some reason, embodies the spirit of Sandra Bland, and she just doesn't like police officers, but she studied criminal justice. How you doing, Sharonda Sneed? And I try to explain to her like you with common sense. Sure, you have rights, but self-awareness is also important.
Right.
You're in a country.
Right.
You understand what's going on. Why would you go counter to how they see things
Right.
and how you see things? There's right and there's their rights.
Right.
And what police officers want you to understand is we have a range of ways we can be right even though we're wrong. We don't want you to kiss our butts, but we want you to recognize power when you encounter it. And if you don't recognize power when you encounter it, then this is your opportunity you're gonna learn today. And they will do that. They will teach you what it means to we have the power. And until laws and policies change to take my power away, I'm going to keep using it. And if you don't recognize it, you're going to learn today.
Well, we have 7 minutes. Let's switch the subject right quick to talk about the presidential debate. So we have Trump versus Hillary, Hillary versus Trump. So, Professor Williams, tell me who won?
The polls are showing Hillary won overwhelmingly. Even
Really?
most Trump supporters are saying, even though they say they're still going to vote for her, most Trump supporters are still saying Hillary won the debate.
I didn't get to see it. I saw it at dinner. At Papado's after court, but I didn't get to hear everything, but I heard a lot of it. And the next morning on the radio, I heard that people were thinking that he won. The New York Times said he won.
No, the New York Times didn't say that.
They didn't say that. Okay, I'm glad I heard that wrong.
Right.
Well, I heard on Tom Joyner, they were teasing saying that she was low-talking him, like people do. She stayed calm.
Calm, and he was, and the other problem he had, he kept making these facial gestures while she was talking, and he kept interrupting her.
That's what I didn't like. I couldn't watch it because when I was trying to watch
Lester
it at dinner,
Holt,
he wouldn't let her finish her sentence. Lester, it was always
right.
about he was bullying.
A bully.
Kind of like a bully.
And even when he, like Lester Holt was asking about stop and frisk, and why would you reimpose that when it was ruled unconstitutional? Oh no, that wasn't ruled unconstitutional. He's
Yes,
wrong.
it was.
So he's interrupting the whole, wouldn't
To
let
lie.
him, and then to lie.
Yeah, I mean, because stop and frisk in New York
was ruled
was
unconstitutional
ruled
by a federal
unconstitutional
judge.
by a federal
Right.
judge, and he
That's
said
right.
no, they just chose not to pursue it anymore.
Right.
And
That's
I mean,
right.
just lied.
That's
I'm
right.
like,
That's
it
right.
was ruled unconstitutional.
Right. Exactly.
Well, here were some of the key things that happened in the debate. One, Donald Trump was questioned, why did he make the comment about Hillary Clinton didn't have the right look.
Yeah.
So he pivoted and said, I never said that. I said she didn't have the stamina, as he took a drink of water and while he was constantly wheezing and almost seemed like he was about to fall off the podium himself. That was a great moment because he couldn't really define. He kept saying about stamina, but throughout the debate, he was wheezing.
He was the one who didn't have stamina.
And he was drinking water.
And he was also
the whole
sniffling
time.
the whole time.
And I
Was
was
sniffling?
Yeah, it was very loud, very noticeable. He
And
was
Howard
sniffling
Dean
throughout.
accused him saying he may have a cocaine.
No, I don't think Dean should have done that. But
Yeah.
It was wrong, but
At
it's
70
out
years
there,
old,
though.
he's probably not snorting no cocaine.
But it says he's a
70.
non-drinker.
Yeah,
just a
he's never. I
non-drinker,
think he's
yeah.
never had a drink in his life or something.
Well, there are
hasn't
too many people. He's got Secret Service agents around him.
Right,
So he
yeah,
would be
he's not
snorting
snorting no
coke.
Well, at 70 years old, it'd have killed him if he had a coke problem. He's
Right,
too
that's
old.
right.
You
Too
don't
old to
have-
be
It's
snorting
not that
coke.
many
Right, that's right.
powder snorters at 70.
And there's no way you can do that with Secret Service around you. Right.
And he constantly was, when he asked about the
Birther issue.
he still feels like he should be rewarded
Rewarded
for
for
making
President
Obama
Obama show his
birth
papers.
certificate.
Yeah, right.
And,
like we're back in slavery times. You got to show your papers.
So another highlight of it was when he accused Hillary Clinton for taking time off for the
being ill?
Yeah.
No, for
preparing
for the thing,
Uh-huh.
for the debate.
Uh-huh.
He said while you were preparing for the debate, I was out campaigning.
Yeah.
And she said, well, not only was I preparing for the debate, I'm also prepared to be president.
Right. That was a great line. Yeah.
You're right.
I
right.
thought her other really great line was, he made a comment about her lacking stamina. He's been saying that for months now. And she said, well, I've traveled to 140 countries. I've negotiated a peace treaty with Iran, and I've done this and I've done that. And, I've testified for 11 hours before Congress straight. And when you've done those things, you can talk to me about stamina. Right.
Ooh, I don't know. That was beautiful.
And she went after him. The other great moment was his taxes. She went after him and said, he's got something to hide. It's either he isn't rich as much.
He's not as rich as he says he is. He doesn't pay as much taxes as he should.
Which he basically admitted. He said, because I'm smart.
He interrupted her
Right.
while she was making assumptions.
And
what
confirmed
he confirmed
it. Yeah.
He said, it's probably because I'm smart that
And
I'm
who-
smart.
and who
that I'm
does-
not
who
paying
does
any taxes.
internal audits of their own taxes before they're released to the
Right.
public? And like she made a good point was, for 40 years, presidential candidates have released their
Right.
taxes. And you keep talking about me about releasing emails. First of all, at 57, almost 58, I don't understand my computer. So I would chance it to say that a 68-year-old woman does not know anything about a server.
Right.
Okay, I would chance it to say.
Exactly. She
that
did
does
whatever
not know.
her staff
She did
told
what they
her.
suggested
Yeah,
that she
right.
do.
That's right.
Just what every 68-year-old.
People
just
were
like,
telling her to do
just
it this
like Donald
way,
Trump
and-
deals
right.
with computers the way someone's telling him to. He's 70 years old. There were no computers when he went to college, and I'm sure he's not going to take any computer classes.
Right.
So I'm sure he deals with his server and his
Right.
computer as his
Right.
junior staffers tell him
Tell
to.
him to.
Or
yeah,
his children.
That's right.
Okay?
He knows how to tweet. We know that. But
Right.
that's about it.
But his
Yeah.
children taught him. I
Yeah,
bet.
they taught
I
him.
bet.
Yeah.
I bet
Oh,
he
yeah,
didn't
I'm
know
sure.
on his
Yeah.
own.
That's right.
You know, just like
That's
my
right.
daughter taught me how to tweet.
Tweet, yeah.
So,
right.
But taxes pay for schools,
Right.
our
The military. Right.
our roads, and for any American to say I support Trump, but to say he's not paying into the system that
Right.
helps all of us, that you okay that a billionaire doesn't support the military,
Right.
doesn't support the schools,
And he wants to be commander-in-chief, and he doesn't pay.
Or he won't show
Toward
you
it.
what he pays.
and,
Right.
and that you okay that he's not transparent, that's not a flag, that I don't care who you are, I want you to be my president
Right.
and lead this country,
Right.
and you don't have to pay taxes,
Right.
you don't have to be transparent of where your money's going. You could be supporting something that's against American. What if you support ISIS? And we can find a trail of your money support. Well, we don't care. That's okay. We just don't want
We
her.
don't know what his money is doing. Russia.
And we don't know, and he has all those loans possibly with Russia.
He
And we don't know if he's giving to his
$625
own
million
charities.
in loans, charity.
And
well,
they said
that
that he's
turns
buying
out
his
a
own pictures.
scam.
He's buying things for his own private use from
Right.
his charity
Pictures,
funds
6
that
feet
he's
tall
not
pictures of
contributing
himself.
to.
Yeah,
But
right.
he's not. But we're not sure if he's even contributing to those charities. Well, y'all, as it always happens, it's 2 minutes. So I'm going to let Professor Williams say a closing remarks. What do you want people to know about the criminal justice system and about what's going on?
Well, I guess what I would like to encourage people to do is when the police officer, don't argue with the police on the scene, comply and assert your rights later, because there's no point in having rights if you're dead.
Amen.
Okay, so whatever, even if a police officer you believe is violating your rights, they're being unreasonable, don't argue with them, comply with them,
Put your hands up. Do
put your
whatever
hands
they tell
up
you to do.
and assert your rights. Hire someone like Miss King and assert your rights in court.
Hire me pro bono, of course. So, what is your take? What is your last statement?
Well, my name is Danny Sneed. I'm a returning citizen, formerly incarcerated, and I work with a political organization, Texas Advocate for Justice. Our aim is to end mass incarceration, the criminalization of our neighborhoods. We believe that until laws are changed and policies change, we're not going to see an end to mass incarceration. I believe that prisons are built for profit and not for punishment. And a lot of things can be changed, but we're gonna have to go out and vote. I found out through restorative justice and going to conferences that our elected officials right here in Houston, Harris County, our judges control more how we live on a daily basis than any other political faction in the United States of America. So I want to encourage you to watch your local elections, get registered to vote, and continue to believe that no matter how bad it is, the sky's not falling. Fear is not the answer. Hope is.
All right, I'm getting the wrap-up sign. So thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. I hope it's been educational. I hope we've shed some light on some things, and I hope you participate in the system by voting, voting, voting. Every person, rich or poor, has one vote. Please make your vote count. We'll see you next week on Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Good night. Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good, a hot topic. So next week I have.
We've been charged with crime. This is a show where